morning. Good morning. How lovely to see you all this morning. And I mean that from my heart. There's people here that I've known since 1998, and there's people here that I've never met before. And isn't that the life of a minister? I'm thankful to Bonnie because she didn't ask me to come and speak. I called and asked her. It's because I'm so shy and retiring. Skipper D will tell you about that. He sat through a good number of things with me, sitting up there during the years that I was here. It is wonderful to be here this morning, from my heart to all of you. This is very special. But not only is it special, but as I walk in, the feeling in here is just beautiful. I knew the lady that made the stained glass windows. And there's one more window, but I can't seem to wrest it from her daughter, so it was supposed to go over that door. And you know, isn't it amazing that here on a Sunday morning, we are going to talk about something that I'm going to refer to as much love and powerful prayer. Because one of the things I didn't put on there was that I worked on and off for 20 years with the World Ministry of Prayer at home office as a practitioner. So we have here before us all of you who have come to this place for comfort. When I go to church, I go to be comforted. Despite whatever the week may be, or however many things that I have done that I can comfort myself. I also lived for 7 years in a Zen Buddhist center. And I got up every morning at 4 o'clock and proceeded to meditate and pray with the monks. All of my life, I have been asking people, even as a child walking to school, when you run into people on the street, first thing I'd ask him is, what do you believe about God? So I've always had this overall curiosity about what people thought about God, how did people feel about God. And wonderful conversations, by the way, as I went along, even when I was a young person. People were amazed that I would say things like that to them. So I have spent my life growing up with God, which is a way to say that it is God and myself dwelling within. I grew up in Christian Science. One of the things that I said to my mother shortly before she died was, my twin brother is a doctor, I'm a chaplain, growing up in Christian Science, and I looked at her and I said, Mom, what do you think went wrong? And she looked at me and said, nothing. Nothing. I grew up with that concept. I grew up with the concept that we are the image and likeness of God. That is a concept that I have known since I could think. And wow. So if I was doing my chaplaincy work, which I've been doing for a good number of years, what do you suppose I was seeing? Because I was in there as a practitioner, you have to know. I might have been in there as a minister, but I was definitely there as a practitioner. Well, what was I looking at? What was I seeing with people? What was I experiencing with them? One day I had a really hard day and I came out and I said, okay, God, what am I doing here? You've had those days. And immediately into my vision came Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane saying, won't one of you wait with me for 1 hour? And it pierced my heart. I have never, no matter how difficult the situation got, I have never asked that question again. When you are in a difficult place, when things around you seem chaotic. What I've learned not to do is to say to God, here, tie my shoelace. Do that for me. I've learned not only as a person who prays, but I've learned as a person who gets out there and says, I'm here because I'm here to support you, no matter what happens. I'm not here to judge you. I am not here to say you're awful or you're sick or you're whatever. I'm here to support you right where you are. Right where you are. Not where I want you to be, but right where you are. And it's okay. And it's okay. How could we not be ministers? How could we not be chaplains with the principles that we teach? We teach wonderful principles. They walk the hallways. And in UCLA, that's a lot of walking. This morning, as I was sitting with my friends Neil Fuller and Arlene Tugel, I picked up my favorite, here's a little comfort for everybody. I picked up my favorite cartoon this morning. Anybody read Snoopy this morning? So, Snoopy writes, as he's wont to do, it was a dark and stormy night. Uh-oh. Suddenly a shot rang out, a door slammed, the maid screamed, suddenly a pirate ship appeared on the horizon, while millions of people were starving. The king lived in luxury. Next panel. Meanwhile, in a small farm in Kansas, a boy was growing up. End of part 1. Part 2. A light snow was falling, and the little girl in the tattered shawl had not sold a violet all day. Blank panel. He's looking at his typewriter. Then he looks up at the sky. And then he goes, at that very moment, a young intern at City Hospital was making an important discovery. And then he looks up and he looks at the sky again. And then he looks down at his typewriter and he says, I may have written myself into a corner. Does anybody here relate to that? How many times have I told my story? How many times in telling the story have I written myself into a corner, a dark corner? A corner, nevertheless, but a dark one. What is it that, first of all, is humor? I mean, there's nothing that gets me out of the glooms faster than a sense of humor, faster than finding something funny about what I'm seeing. Because after all these years, as much as I've seen, as much as people have been whatever they are, how they are, sometimes mean, ugly, sometimes things that you'd rather walk out of the room and not see. What happens when you bring your humor to bear here? Because you must always help yourself keep balance under difficult situations with humor. Well, I've said that before, and sometimes I can do it. Most of the times I can do it now. I've practiced a lot. So most of the times I can do it now, but not always. So when I'm growing up with God, I sometimes face things that I don't like, that aren't pleasant, they're not comfortable, they're not anything. I mean, I can have a lot of joy in my life. We all can. We can go out of our way to create joy in our lives. It's not writing myself or picturing myself into a corner. It's getting up and moving out and allowing all that's there to be present with me, to allow me to say, okay, this is all right. But always to remember that we were created in the image and likeness of God. Does that resonate with you? Because it should. If we were created in perfection and I go into a room and there's somebody who's broken, and sometimes they want to do something about it and sometimes they don't. One young man had his crane fall on him and he was broken. lots of places. And when I walked in, he said to me, "I'm so glad you're here." That was amazing coming from a young man. So I said, "Okay, what's up?" And he told me what had happened, and he said, "I don't know how I'm going to heal. I'm broken in so many places, I don't know how I'm going to heal." And I said, "Well, you know what? What I believe is that your body knows how to heal. I believe that you were created, and if you can agree with me on this," I said to him, "I believe that you were born and created in perfection. And that there is in the mind of God, or spirit, as I now refer to that which most of us call God, there's a picture of you in perfection, and I'm going to help you remember what that looks like." I went out and got him a book, a coloring book, guys. You know how popular they are now? In those days, nobody knew anything except kids did coloring books. So I said, "Here's a coloring book. What's your favorite color for healing?" And he told me, I don't remember what color he said. And I said, "Here's the crayon." And I said, "And in this book are parts of your body, and they're whole. And I want you to color them every day, thinking about your body healing. I want you to think about that. Keep yourself focused on the fact." And I said, "Can I use the word God?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "So God knows you in a pattern of perfection. And remember that that pattern of perfection is now working in your body. Now, not tomorrow, not in another minute, but now and ever since it happened. It was trying to figure out a way to go back together, to knit back together." And so every day I'd go in and do a prayer with him, and every day I'd check to see how he's doing with his coloring book. And he said to me at one point, he said, "You know, I'm supposed to be here 6 months." And I said, "Oh." And I said, "What do you think about that?" And he said, "I don't want to be in here 6 months." I said, "So what are you going to do?" He said, "Well, you're going to help me, and I'm going to keep on praying and coloring." Good. Excellent. So one day I'm going down the hall, and you know how young people are, full of life. Please, it's just too wonderful. Coming down the hall toward me are 2 guys in wheelchairs racing. And I didn't recognize the one guy. I didn't recognize him until he got even with me, and he did, "Eek, eek." "Bonny." "Yes." "Oh, look who it is. Oh, how are you?" "Yeah, he's in a wheelchair." "Ah." He said, "My doctor wants to talk to you." "Why?" And he said, "Because he wants to know what we've been doing that I healed so fast. He wants to know what we've been doing." So I went and talked to his doctor. And even though that floor was one of my floors, I got more patience because the doctor kept referring me and how I believed to people who were having trouble with what they were doing, which was healing, basically. Is there anything that we cannot heal? There is nothing that cannot be healed, but it must start here. This is an inner job. This is an inner work. We do the best we can, but we must start within and then allow people to do what they do. Because you know what? They may not do it. And that's okay as well. We give people permission to be who they are, where they are, as they are. One man told me that the reason he had throat cancer was because he told Ernest Holmes he wouldn't be a minister. And I looked at him and I said, "Do you believe that? Do you believe that?" And then I stand in silence. And after a while, he looked at me and he said, "Well, it sounds kind of silly, doesn't it?" You have no idea how do we empower ourselves with negative stuff? You know, the standing metaphysical joke about empowering ourselves with the negative stuff. "Oh, this day couldn't get any worse if it tried." And our positive side says, yes, it could. What you need to remember is that there is one in all of this. This is one thought, one spirit, one movement, one energy, one. So when things appear to be not one, then you are seeing the perfection of it in the unity and oneness, and that was what I was doing as I was working with people wherever I went. Whether it was here and they were dying, whether it was at the hospital and maybe they were, I loved the ER. Some of us are foolish. But I loved it because it was like I could handle it. And the whole time that I was doing my year's residency at UCLA, I was the only chaplain student who liked the ER. So, of course, everybody was so glad to give it to me. Here, it's yours, take it. And every once in a while, my supervisor would have to say, no, it's your turn. You go. Bonnie, sit down. You're not going. He's going. In all of this growing up with spirit, I have to tell you, it hasn't stopped. They forget to tell us about those things. I'm grown up at 21. No, barely. But you can't, I wouldn't say that to young people. I wouldn't say to them, oh, wait until you get down to 40, or wait till you get to 60, or wait till you get to 76, like me. And I'm sitting here looking at spirit and going, okay, what's next? Oh, well, spirit has never disappointed me. Things keep coming up and keep coming up. But I continue to do the very simple things that I've been taught here. Science tells us that our minds are like a hologram. And a hologram starts here. And as I studied psychology in college, it is that part of yourself that projects who and what you are out there on situations. So what you're looking with is what you've already experienced. It's already there. And if you remember in the haunted house at Disneyland, the little lady that stands and waves goodbye to everybody as you leave, she's a hologram. So when you're doing your work and you are seeing spirit, that is a part of my hologram. I'm seeing the perfection. I believe that there are no mistakes. It takes many years to get to that place. I believe there are no mistakes. And we've had lots of chaos around things that people think are a mistake recently. And I say, no. That's going to be perfect. We just don't know how it's going to show up. And trust me, folks, for a person like me who has done nothing but service to people and has done nothing but go out and serve communities and has done nothing but serve this world, that was a tough decision. But it's what I believe. I believe now are we the sons and daughters of God. Now. And maybe I don't like you. Maybe I don't like the way you dress. Maybe I don't like the way you look. That's me. That's me looking at you. And that's for me to heal. If we do not believe that there is a purpose for all the things that unfold, if we do not believe that things are there for our highest good, finally, in all the prayer work that I've had after almost 34 years, I say this prayer for the highest good. No conditions. For the highest good, because I believe that spirit never goes to sleep, ever. Spirit is always working, energy is always working. As we evolve, it becomes more and more apparent that spirit is working, that the energy that we see all around us. You know, we used to laugh about getting together on a Sunday morning and doing services. Everybody shows up in the same colors. The songs are perfect. You know, it's like, who did that? So I'm going to ask a friend of mine to come up here with me because I have a story to tell you. And she's one of the people that started the story, although she hasn't heard this. I don't know if you all know Kamatara and Ken Johnson. I was honored to go and sit and listen to him at the Art Museum play his sax and jazz with his group for 3 hours one Saturday. And it was an honor. And trust me, the spoiled LA kid knows about jazz. So that was a gift. Ken, thank you. Anyway, Kamatara is in charge of the youth at our center, and they're here visiting because they come down here and they visit periodically. So Kamatara, come on up here with me. So one day I was sitting high watch, which is what I do when I go to church. Sometimes I talk, but mostly I sit high watch because that's my favorite thing to do. And I'm sitting there doing high watch, and of course my eyes are closed, and all of a sudden I hear Kamatara and Michelle Scholler sing a song. It's something like this. Love will build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love will build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? And the story that goes with it is this. I have been estranged from my daughter for many years. Because of religious differences, I'm just not Christian enough for her. I have not spent most of my grandchildren's time with them. And I have 2 great-grandchildren now, and I haven't met them. So I heard them singing the song, and something in my mind went click. And I started smiling. And I would think about my daughter, and I have 4 grandchildren, and I would think about my daughter, and I would go, love will build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love will build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? And every time I thought about my daughter, I would sing that song. Every time. A month ago, I got an email from my daughter. We communicate through Facebook. Another good reason for Facebook. And she wrote me a note and said, "Hi, Mom. Megan wants your address so she can send you a wedding invitation." Does this work? Does our belief system work? Yes, it does. And in times that may appear to be difficult, it works now, right now, in this moment, not later, not wishing on it, now. And every time you do a prayer, it is powerful. Every time you speak your word, the universe can only say yes. That's all it can say. It cannot say no. You can say no. It cannot. So your prayers are powerful, powerful. Because you are. There isn't anybody here, standing or sitting, that isn't powerful. And I've spent a lot of years proving that. I've taken this into difficult places where people said, "What are you doing there?" A metaphysician, I was our first chaplain in religious science. And I came back and I would teach pastoral care class at the School of Ministry, and I would say, "This works. I took it out there. It works. It works." And then the chaplains started lining up. Now we have more chaplains than we know what to do with. And guess who a lot of them are? Our practitioners. They are our practitioners. So, in my growing up with God, I'm still continuing. Like it or not. But I don't know that I would be comfortable not having that growth going on, not having that ability to move and live and have my being in spirit. So I'm retired for 6 years now, and I'm up in Albuquerque, and I'm working with Reverend Martha and put the pastoral care department together there. And then I was getting ready to really retire, and I get a call from home office saying, hey, you know, we want to put this committee together, Bonnie. Really? A committee? Yeah, and we want you to be the chairman. Of what? Well, we're going to finally put the pastoral care department together. We're going to make it possible for all of our people who are out there being chaplains all these years to come and be a part of us. But we have to create a new path. Well, now how am I going to turn that down? And on top of that, now that we're both united in RSI, the person who started it for RSI is out there too. So she's on the committee as well. So we have all bases covered, and it is a joy to begin a new journey with religious science and with the Centers for Spiritual Living. Who'd have thought it? I certainly didn't. But I try not to say no to spirit. So when spirit and you get together, you're a dynamic force. You're not a duo, you are a force. God lives here. God lives in every cell and fiber of my being. I am whole, and I am a picture of perfection in the mind of God. And trust me when I tell you, it works every time, even for my own stuff, which I'm still working on, by the way. What could I say to you any more than what I've already said? Not much. In all these years, I have talked to people about who they are. It didn't matter whether they believed the way I did or not. If they were Catholic or if they were Buddhist or whatever it was, whatever their religion was, people have a sense of their unity with one. They have a sense that there's something greater than they are. It doesn't matter what they call it. And for people who are atheists, I would always say the same thing. Well, you do believe in God, you know. And they look at me and go, no, I don't. I said, well, how would you know you don't if you do? If you don't believe in God, how would you know that unless you do believe in God? Oh, a little zen for me, but that's okay. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Namaste.